Welcome everyone. Today's topic is hidden real estate gems in the midst of COVID-19. And we have the pleasure to have Gary Davidson from Castle Law. So Gary, thank you very much for joining this afternoon. He's #1 attorney in Illinois. So we're so honored to have you this afternoon with us today. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks so much, Hugo. You want me to go ahead and take it away, or you got an introductory piece at all?
No, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for joining me during the Bears game. Glad to be with everyone. I want to do a little bit of a deep dive on where we're at in 2020 as a result of COVID. We've got a couple of things in play right now, 3 weeks before the presidential election. So there's a number of different dynamics that all impact the real estate market. And for those of us who are involved in real estate, the key is if you're always ready, you never have to get ready. And so understanding the dynamics of politics, understanding the dynamics of the real estate housing market, understanding the dynamics of the economy in general and interest rates, all of those interplay with what our specific investment strategy is at any given time. So let's just do a quick recap on what has happened in 2020. Obviously, we have an election coming up in 3 weeks. We've gone through a massive pandemic. And despite all of that, the economy is actually relatively strong. And of course, as most of you probably know, we have had an extremely bullish residential real estate market. And the reason that we've had an extremely bullish residential real estate market is due to interest rates. Interest rates are at an all-time low. But when we pull back that onion and we start thinking about what is beneath the current surge in prices. For those of you who are flipping, right now we're seeing multi-offer situations on any given properties. Properties in the suburbs are going where they're literally going $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 over list price. And that's a direct result of the interest rates being so low. Why is that such an important factor? Well, we have to understand when interest rates are low, that creates greater buying power for any specific retail customer or even us as investors. Well, why does it create additional buying power? Well, if you're paying 2.5% interest rather than 6 or 7%, you can get more for your money. So that property that might have been out of the FHA buyer's strike zone at $260,000 or $270,000, now they can afford that because the cost of their loan or the cost of their credit is actually less. Now, why is that potentially perilous for us as investors? And by the way, Hugo, I don't know if there is a question bar on the side or if they can submit questions, but if there is, people can submit questions that you really want to know about. I represent a lot of banks, a lot of private equity groups, a lot of hedge funds. I represent the largest institutional buyer in the state of Illinois right now. Just last week, we've got another new California fund, and they just placed offers on 20 properties last week. So I kind of have a general sense of what's going on in the real estate market. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask as we go along here. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, there is a lot of potential problems in our real estate industry right now because of interest rates being so low and because of state and federal policies that have encouraged individual borrowers to not pay their mortgages because of eviction moratoriums and because of a moratorium on foreclosures and because of all of this discussion about the opportunities and rights to forbearance. So we have had a tremendous amount of borrowers in 2020 who have either by choice, strategically, or because of some specific problem to them. They've lost their job. They were actually impacted by COVID, who have either chosen to or have not been able to pay their mortgage. And so as we look at forecasting through the end of the next couple of months in 2020 and probably into 2021, we're going to have a tremendous amount of foreclosures that hit the real estate market. Now, what does that mean to us as investors? Well, we're going to, when you see that massive amount of flood, when the governor of the state of Illinois and the federal regulators open up that foreclosure opportunity where banks can start taking back these assets, the banks haven't been getting paid. So they're going to try to get these assets back, and they're going to try to dispose of these assets as quickly as possible. So my very, very good friend Ryan Smith, who's the #1 REO broker in Illinois, he's predicting a tremendous amount of shift in the real estate market in 2021. We're talking about anywhere between a 15 to 30% decrease in home prices in 2021. Why is that? Well, what happens? It's just general supply and demand, guys. If there is a tremendous amount of new inventory in the market, and there's all of these foreclosures that get dumped on the market, that brings prices down. Okay, so what does this all mean to the typical investor? Well, and again, this is just the world according to Gary Davidson. I'm prognosticating just like anyone else. Right now, buying flips is a bit perilous. And the reason I say that is because I represented a very large portion of the investors in the Chicagoland area in 2006 and 2007. And there were a lot of people that got clipped because they got caught right in the middle of that shift. Obviously, what did I start with? Interest rates are really low. Demand is very high. Prices are extremely high right now. It's at the top of the market. So things continue to progress and things continue to sell off the market. But if you don't time your purchases correctly, you can get stuck with a lot of inventory, and you've bought high and you end up selling low if we have that shift in the marketplace. So going into this presidential election in 2 or 3 weeks, it's a very, very perilous time to be buying properties to flip, because the name of the game in real estate is to minimize your risk and maximize your return. So the way we minimize risk and maximize return is we have to control our variables. When we're running a business, controlling our variables is of the utmost importance. We have to be able to predict with a high level of certainty what the ultimate outcome is. In other words, real estate isn't a guessing game. Running a law firm isn't a guessing game. Selling orange juice in an orange juice stand, selling hot dogs, selling widgets, none of this stuff is a guessing game. We need to be able to predict with a high level of certainty that an action will result in a result. And so right now we can't predict that because we don't know who the president of the United States is. We don't know what the Federal Reserve is. We don't know where housing prices are going to be. Now, one could say that that's always the case, and that certainly is, but we have much more uncertainty due to the pandemic and due to this presidential election. So for those of you who are listening, you're saying, well, gee, this is quite depressing. I know the Bears are winning, but Gary's talking about a bunch of depressing stuff. Well, with problems, those breed opportunities. And so what are the opportunities that exist right now as a result of COVID and as a result of the presidential election and some of these other conditions that are happening in the market. Well, what did I say? A lot of homeowners that are behind on their mortgages. So we've got a lot of pre-foreclosures. What does ChicagoDealVault help with? ChicagoDealVault is an opportunity to, when those properties, when a lis pendens is filed shortly here in the next couple of months and after the first of the year, when banks are allowed to file foreclosure, you're going to have access to all of this off-market inventory where you can chase down and bird dog these properties that are off-market opportunities. So there's going to be a tremendous amount of foreclosures. There's also going to be an opportunity for a lot of short sales. Again, it's another example of how ChicagoDealVault can help you. Now, I know this is Hugo's program, and I don't want you to think that I'm pandering to Hugo just because he allowed me to come on and speak on Sunday, and now my wife's mad at me because I'm not spending time with her. It's truly because what I'm telling you is accurate. There's nothing out there that exists that puts all of this together like ChicagoDealVault. Many of my top investors utilize this resource. I like to hang around people that are smarter than me. It's not very hard for me to find people that are smarter than me. But in the case of Hugo, it truly is the case. Hugo is a mastermind when it comes to assembling all of this data for his clients. So short sales, foreclosures, those are all opportunities for you to buy. Again, we're going to have a 15 to 30% reduction in prices over the course of 2021. So what does Warren Buffett say and other people who are involved in real estate? We're going to want to buy low and take advantage of those opportunities. You know, one of the beautiful things about this, though, is that you don't have to be a predator. We all have to lead with value and provide over-the-top excessive value to help our common man. And there are people, it is true, that are going to be in very bad situations. And this is an opportunity for us to utilize the things we learn at these seminars, utilize these techniques to be able to take those techniques and bring those to the general public to help people out of bad situations. But I also want you to change your mindset, and I want to change your mindset to creating win-win opportunities for all people, because one of the things that I see in real estate all the time, especially with investors, is that we lead with trying to somehow take advantage of people. And we have to recognize that we have a massive duty. We have a massive duty to people when we are real estate investors, that when we submit a contract, when we go to somebody's table, when we put up a bandit sign, when we send those yellow letters, we have a tremendous opportunity, but we also have a tremendous responsibility. And that responsibility is that when you put your signature on the bottom of a contract, it has meaning. And you've told that person that you're going to do something. So in order to succeed in this world, in order to succeed in this business, I want you to recognize one common concept and one common principle. When you say something, do it. And that's something that's, I think, often overlooked in our real estate industry right now, especially with wholesaling and assignment of contracts. These people are in extremely distressed situations. And oftentimes when we come to them, we're their last hope. And we are operating our business like my 12-year-old daughter operates a lemonade stand. And you place something under contract and you have zero exit strategy. It's just a wing and a prayer. And then after a month and a half or 2 months, you can't sell that property because you didn't properly analyze the value. You didn't run it through the formulas that Hugo provides to actually see what the end value is going to be, and you cancel the contract. You actually had a destructive impact on another person's life. I don't want to belabor that point, but it's something that I always like to focus on in these groups. It's a lot of times on these seminars, we have a lot of new investors, and I want you to understand that you do have a responsibility, that this isn't just a game, this isn't just a part-time job, that this is a grind, and we have a responsibility when we place properties under contract. So short sales. Why are short sales going to be good? Well, again, what did I just say? I've closed, I think this year I'm going to be number 2 in the state of Illinois for real estate attorneys in terms of volume closed. The only other attorney that does more real estate closings than Castle Law is a firm called Cadillus. Cadillus is the largest REO company in the state of Illinois, and they close hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of REO properties. But aside from that, I do the most number of closings. Certainly on the retail side and with investors, no one even comes close to the type of volume that I'm handling. And so I actually am seeing this. I am seeing people that consistently, Friday we had, I don't know, 15 or 16 closings. And I'm seeing people, once again, just like in 2005 and 2006, they're buying these properties and they're walking out of closings with checks for $5,000 and $6,000. FHA, 98% loan to value. Loan to value today, if it goes down 15 to 30%, guess what? Zero equity, property's upside down. Okay, so there you have it. That's what causes your short sales. You've mixed into play some things with like COVID-19, and depending upon how long this continues to go on, and we're waiting for this next recession to hit, by the way, guys. I mean, this recession is long, long, long overdue. I will predict that regardless of whether you like the President of the United States, President Trump, or whether you like Senator Joe Biden, or whether you don't like either, or whether you like both of them, that we're going to have a correction in the market in 2021. If the president is reelected, it's probably going to be closer to 15%. If Senator Biden's elected, it'll probably be closer to 30% market correction. Just a little side note on capital gains tax rates for those of you who are involved in real estate investing. I want you to do some research on 1031s for those of you who have a portfolio of residential properties that are rental properties. You may want to consider 1031 exchanges in the event that Senator Biden is elected president. Senator Biden is on record. If you go on his campaign website, he wants to increase the capital gains tax rate to 42% for those people who are selling real estate. Right now, the capital gains rate is about 23%, so that's a little bit approximately doubling the capital gains rate. Senator Biden's theory behind that is because people who are benefiting from real estate and are making money on real estate should have to pay a higher tax, and he can then redistribute that money to other people who maybe aren't able to engage in real estate activities. Obviously, President Trump is wanting to lower the capital gains tax rate to 15%. So that would be a reduction in the capital gains rate down from 23% to 15%. President Trump's theory is that we need to encourage people who have money to reinvest that money in the capital infrastructure of the United States, because real estate is the lifeblood of the United States. We need to have people who have money continue to pour their money back into the economy. I'm not saying who's right or wrong, that's just the facts. Knowing those sorts of things and being educated on them is extremely important. So if you're going to flip properties in 2021, anything sold less than a year is going to be subject to ordinary income or that 42% tax rate if Joe Biden is elected. So you can't do a 1031 exchange unless you own a piece of residential property for in excess of 2 years. So that would be turning a residential property into a flip. So if you have some residential properties, you have a portfolio, 1031ing that, so it's a tax deferred exchange. You don't pay taxes now. If Senator Biden's elected, would be a good strategy. Flipping's not going to be so hot if things continue to stay the same and we have a Democratic president, although there's going to be other positive things as a result of that. So now that I've hit the subject that everyone tells you not to talk about, I just wanted to give everybody a flavor on that, because normal, intelligent, reasonable human beings have to understand the political landscape and understand the impact of these things without everybody calling each other names, because it's extremely important to know what the differences are, so that changes how we do investing. So we've talked about what we can do with, so I'm gonna say third and, oh, by the way, I'm filibustering here because I'm hitting a brain cramp. Something very, very interesting I read in Cranes the other day. I don't know how many of you know this, but in the city of Chicago, there's in excess of a 12-month supply of condos. So I just got done talking about how you put a property on the market, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. 3, 4, 5 multi-offer situation, everything's rising. Well, as a result of some of the instability in the city of Chicago, young families that live in condos, even people that live on the west side of Chicago, we've been doing a ton of closings, people moving out of the south and west side into the south suburbs and Dalton, Cal City, Park Forest, because everybody's trying to escape the nonsense, okay? There's a 12-month supply of condos. I'm actually extremely bullish on the city of Chicago. People are calling me crazy because who in the hell would want to go down in a city that's being run by Lori Lightfoot, and it seems like it's just, you know, the wild, wild west. But the city of Chicago is very, very resilient. Many people might not realize this, but Illinois, and specifically we're the city attorneys for the city of Joliet. Right south of Joliet is what's called the intermodal facility. It's the largest inland port in the world. And Illinois and Chicago is the one place in the continental United States where you can get 1-day truck travel, semi-truck, to San Francisco, to New York, to Minneapolis, to New Orleans, okay? What is the lifeblood of our country right now? Logistics. So 1-day truck travel. Every major railroad stubs into the Chicagoland area. No place else in the entire continental United States does the Burlington Northern, the BNSF, I can't think of the other one. All of the major railroads stub into the Chicagoland area. We also have the intersection of 55 and 80. It's the crossroads of America. We also have all of the major waterways, the canals, Lake Michigan, the Mississippi River. So it's actually the only place in the continental United States from a logistics perspective, when you're locating Amazon, you're locating Amazon, you're locating some of these large logistics distributors. That's why we have all those cargo containers from from China, and they can't get rid of them, and there's a massive problem because it costs too much to ship the cargo containers back. So we've got cargo containers coming out of our ears. What does that mean for us as investors? Well, you know, as bad of an economic climate the state of Illinois is, as much as J.B. Pritzker and Mike Madigan and others have declared war on business in Illinois, despite all of that, despite this nonsense of this fair tax amendment, which is just a way to tax all Illinoisans more, we're still going to have a tremendous amount of growth in the real estate sector due to the fact that logistically it just makes sense to locate here, because you can't possibly ship things cheaper from San Francisco to New York than you can from Chicago to San Francisco, and Chicago to Minneapolis, and Chicago to New York. So all of these things, folks, you guys got to consider and think about in your investing strategy. So a lot of times people are like, you know, we're going to go here, we're going to go there. Indiana's a good place to invest in right now. That Gary and other areas over in that area, because of taxes, they're still connected to the Chicago economy. Yet we have a little bit lower taxes in Indiana. That's a good potential resource for you. So just to summarize, and I know I'm only a half hour into this, I'll have Hugo jump in, see if he has any questions. Plus I want to watch the end of the Bears game. Plus I have some clients I have to call back who have been waiting on me. But I would buy rental properties right now, because we can predict numbers on rental properties, right? We know what the rents are going to be. We also know that we're going to have a lot of people going through foreclosure, so people have to live somewhere. So you can run your analysis and you can figure out what your rents are. That's going to be a little bit more resilient to shifts. And I would consider the third and fourth quarter for buying properties for flipping, because in the first and second quarter we're going to start opening up. We're going to see a shift in values downwards. We're going to see an uptick in interest rates, and we're going to see a massive amount of inventory coming onto the market in the first and second quarter. So our level of predictability is going to be much more significant, and we're going to be able to pinpoint that in a far more analytical way and be able to handle that much more in the third and fourth quarter. Castle Law is a 15-attorney law firm. We represent companies from ExxonMobil to banks. We represent a lot of, again, as I mentioned, private equity groups, hedge funds. I happen to be primarily a real estate attorney that focuses on representing investors. But for those of you who are doing your business planning for the 2021 year, and I would submit to you, whether you are an advanced investor or you're an investor that have just got started, that you need to take out a piece of paper and you need to write down what your dream life is, what your perfect world is. Because a dream with a goal backed by a plan becomes reality. You can't hit a target you can't see. By the way, I'm not reading from notes. This is just stuff that's coming off the top of my head. But you can't hit a target you can't see. So guys, if you're going to be in the business of investing in real estate, any legitimate business, I don't care if you're Lee Iacocca, he has a business plan and he follows it and he writes it down. And you can't put a man on the moon unless you have a plan, right? They didn't just wake up one day and NASA said, we're going to put a man on the moon. They picked a target and they said, we're going to have a man on the moon in 1964, whatever the year was. And they knew that it was going to take 4 years, and you back into your plan. So build it out. Picture that dream life. What is it that you want to do? And then you need to chart out how you're going to get there. Be very, very specific. And when you think you've narrowed it down as deeply as you possibly can, I want you to narrow it down more. Because I'll ask people all the time, I'll look at them and I'll talk to a group like this and I'll say, how many properties do you want to buy next year? Or what's your goal? Excuse me, what's your goal? And they'll say, I want to buy 12 properties next year. Well, that's not a plan. How many offers are you going to submit? How many properties are you going to run through your deal calculator? Because you can't buy 12 properties unless you have all of those things in place. Because to actually physically buy 12 properties, you may have to look at 160 properties. And in order to look at 160 properties, you may have to analyze 320 properties. In order to analyze 320 properties, you're going to have to time block X amount of time in any given week. So that's what I mean by saying you can't hit a target you cannot see. And it has to be with clearly defined goals. I graduated from Northern Illinois University. I'm certainly not the smartest guy in the world. I started out at a firm called Mayer Brown and Platt in downtown Chicago. I had a bunch of guys that were Dartmouth and Yale and Harvard and UC grads there. I quickly learned that I wasn't meant for a firm like that. But what I did do is I knew that if I wanted to do 1,000 closings in any particular year, I had to meet with X number of realtors. I had to speak at X number of events. I enjoy doing this because my why when I wake up in the morning is helping people create a life worth living, a legacy worth leaving, a career worth having, and a business worth owning. I enjoy giving people a hand up before I ask for a handout. So that's my why, that's my drive, but I also recognize that I'm just not doing this for the fun of it. I actually want some of you people to feel like I'm the right person to help you get to the next level and allow us to grow together. So thanks so much for having me, Hugo. Thanks for everyone who decided to tune in and listen. Hugo, I'm happy to answer any questions. I love your DealVault program, and I want to give you an opportunity to share with everyone here the power behind what you've developed.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, your words were so inspiring, Gary. I mean, I was blown out of my mind, especially what you said, goals with dreams, with a goal backed up by a plan is reality. I mean, that is super powerful. I hope everyone wrote these down because you sort of reverse engineer what it takes to make your dream come true, right? Having a plan in mind that you can take actionable steps on a daily basis to fulfill that goal that eventually is going to lead you to have your dream come true. That was extremely powerful, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, you're amazing. I mean, every time that I hear you talk, it's like I have my notepad and my pen down to write what you say. It's freaking amazing. So it's just a great pleasure to have Gary. I hope everyone took notes. We're going to do a quick summary of what Gary mentioned. But before we do that, are there any questions for Gary on the line? So you can put them via the chat, or you can unmute yourself. So we have few questions on the line. Somebody's asking recommendation plugins in, please. What does that mean by recommendations, plugins? I sell houses. So OB is asking for cash buyers. We're going to touch base on that shortly through ChicagoDealVault. Are there any other questions for Gary that we have him on the line right now? Everyone is saying very informative. Thanks for your time, Gary. So inspiring. We're seeing a lot of messages. Any other questions
Okay,
for Gary?
sorry, South Joliet related. He mentioned something and I missed, or I couldn't understand exactly what does he mean by South Joliet. I understood like, okay, it's a railroad crossing, it's a waterways are there, and it's a Midwest. But what specifically is he said about the South Joliet or Joliet?
Okay, so thank you for your question. What I was referring to is the world's largest inland port is in Joliet and Elwood, which is just south of Joliet. So if you go to Beijing, China, actually on the map in a lot of the businesses is Joliet. And the only reason I was referencing Joliet was to give you a frame of reference of where that is. But in general, just sometimes people get down on Illinois and its taxes and its overregulation, but Illinois is still a tremendous place to invest because of location. So what do they say about real estate? Location, location, location. You can never change where we're situated. Next to the Great Lakes, the Mississippi River, all of the railroads stubbing in, the highways. So just from a logistical perspective, the Chicagoland area is very good. And just one last thing on that, Joliet specifically, someone sent me a link to an article, and I can't remember who it was, and I don't know, I can't even reference the article, but somebody texted it to me. And Joliet was actually listed as one of the top 10 places to invest because I believe because of the logistics. Now, the rents in Joliet are a little bit lower, and the pricing of homes is a little higher than what most people are traditionally, like, you know, your newer investors want to buy out in Park Forest, Dolton, Cal City, Sauk Village, all of those areas, because properties are 30, 40, 50, 60,000, and you can get a very good cash on cash return on those properties. But Joliet has actually been touted as a very, very, very good place to invest. So something to look into.
Perfect. There's another question by OB. How can you help real estate investors as an attorney?
Well, our business is based on relationships, and you don't know what you don't know. So when you go to great question, by the way, if I know, and I'm personal friends with all of the top REO agents in the state of Illinois. If Ryan Smith, a name that many of you may know, if he gets a client that submits an offer on a property, he'll call me and he'll say, hey, do you know anything about ABC Ventures? And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. When these REO agents see my name on a contract, it makes a tremendous difference because they know I know what they need and they know what my expectations are, and we're going to get this from contract to closing quickly. The other thing is just in terms of strategies to minimize risk and maximize return. Hiring an attorney that only focuses on a specific thing, you're going to get that quality. And it doesn't have to be me. There are other investment attorneys out there, but focusing on somebody that you can build a relationship with that's not simply going to be transactional, but is going to be a partner. Okay, I talk a lot about partners, and vendors. And oftentimes people will call me and ask me how much they're going to charge, how much I'm going to charge them for a real estate closing. And I recognize that's the really, people don't know what questions to ask. So I'm not offended by that, but I want those of you who are listening to consider with whoever you're working with, whether it's ChicagoDealVault, whether it's your home inspector, whether it's your contractor, whether it's your radon mitigation company, your insurance company, your CPA, focus on partnerships rather than a vendor-vendee relationship, because the people who you pick can have a tremendous impact and difference on your business to help you grow and scale it based on their relationships and based on their connections. So, I mean, my clients always love to brag about how when we get to the closing, you look at that closing statement and the attorney fee is probably one of the lowest fees on the entire closing statement. The owner's policy, the endorsements, all of these things that you guys don't know what any of that stuff means. And I can, with laser precision, hone in on those things. And we typically are having a number of those different fees waived because they're unnecessary. Focus on partnerships, focus on building relationships, and don't worry whether the attorney is $400, $500, or $600 for its real estate closing, because you're going to make that up in a tremendously by just building relationships with people who are top in the industry.
Absolutely. So that makes, I would like to add up onto that. So friends, ordinary investors focus on cost. How much is that going to cost me? But instead, the pearl real estate investors focus on the value. Think about it. Can you imagine working with the #1 attorney in Illinois? Do you know what it means? What Gary just said. He's going to bring you from contract to closing in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. Okay, not only that, but the relationships. He gets to work with the key players in the industry. Not only that, he's got an inside first-hand look at what's going to happen in the near future, which is exactly what he shared with us today. He clearly said, be cautious on flips because of the declining values in the upcoming months. Focus on rentals because you know the numbers. I mean, just that alone, right? It's huge, right? He also mentioned about interest rates. Interest rates are historically low right now, but they're going to start to climb up, right? So that makes the buyer pool become bigger. So it's a seller's market right now, but it's going to change in the upcoming months. So he's helping you prepare yourself to be better in the near future. So can you imagine, how can you put a price tag on that? Absolutely not. So the partnership, the relationship is priceless. Working with Gary, he's been a great friend and mentor for myself and for the entire ChicagoDealVault community. So I really want to thank you, Gary, for being such a great person, attorney, friend, mentor.
And one last thing, Hugo, that I wanted to mention is that when you build relationships, the most important thing is that money doesn't exchange hands. So what I mean by that is when you build a relationship between people like Hugo and I talk very highly about ChicagoDealVault. Hugo speaks highly about me. We have no business relationship. We have no business affiliation. I do a lot of closings for his wife. We don't have any, there's no monetary situation. So when you build those relationships with people, it has to be intellectually honest and pure. So don't always be looking for ways to monetize everything, because you want to make sure that I wouldn't speak to this group if I didn't believe in Hugo and believe in DealVault. So think of that as well. Everything doesn't have to be about money exchanging hands.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary. So they're asking how to get in touch with you. So on the ChicagoDealVault, we have preferred partners, and look under attorney. Okay, so right here, Attorney Casolo, Gary Davidson, that's his contact information, email. And Phil, please, can you send this out via the chat so everyone can have access to Gary Davidson, please, on the chat? So again, it's on their preferred partners tab and then on their attorney. So you're gonna find Gary Davidson right here. So we just posted Gary's contact information on the chat for all of you to reach out to him, his staff, on any real estate related matter. So thank you again, Gary, for being with us today.
Thanks, Hugo.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, both of you.
Thank you. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna give you free access to Chicago DealVault. Not only that, a free ticket to the upcoming 3-day event organized by Chicago RIA. Okay, so all free when you sign up. So please, Phil, can you send the instructions to sign up? The promo code is Gary. Okay, that's the promo code. You're going to get 30 days free of Chicago DealVault and a free ticket to the upcoming 3-day event. Okay, and Chicago DealVault, somebody was asking OB about cash buyers. We have over 69,000 cash buyers, okay? And guess what? When you click on the cash buyer contact information, boom, we're gonna give you their email, cell phone number, landline, everything. So you don't need to build your cash buyer. If you're thinking about doing wholesales, we're gonna give them in a silver platter for you, okay? And that is just one feature of Chicago DealVault. Private money lenders, if you wanna line up funding for your 2021 deals, we have over 8,000 private money lenders. And again, with a click of a button, boom, we're gonna give you their contact information, what properties they've lent money to and to who. Super, super powerful. Gary mentioned about off-market leads. We have probates, pre-foreclosures, upcoming auctions, bank-owned properties, vacant properties, wholesale deals. You'll have access to everything, unlimited one-on-one training via Zoom, access to the MLS as if you were a real estate broker. You can search any property, area reports. If you want to know anything about any particular area, you don't need to do driving for dollars. We're going to give you what exit strategies the area supports. What are the ongoing rents, vacancy rates, household income information, crime, schools, all that information that you need to know before investing is going to be at your fingertips. And then we're going to share over 90 preferred partners with you. Gary Davidson's contact information is right here. We also work with Frank Montreux, top #1 real estate broker. You can reach out to him through here. Over 90 preferred partners, okay? That's just to mention few of the benefits. So please make sure that you sign up. Promo code is Gary. This is only for Illinois, so it's not nationwide. We go very deep in Illinois. And again, one-on-one training, and we in fact have a training tab with over 120 videos, okay? So this library, it's sorted by sequence, right? So super, super powerful training videos. We still have live one-on-one trainings with you. You can schedule as many trainings as you need. So thank you everyone for joining.